And again, on the face of it, it sounds like fantasy land, all that stuff. And I wrote in the Robots Rebellion about this, and someone read the manuscript and said, oh, that's far-fetched, because what I was saying was there is a plan to bounce public opinion into accepting babies being microchipped at birth in the same process their way to be microchipped. Because, I mean, you're talking about that long just to put one under the skin. And it does sound far-fetched, I can understand that, but the kind of evidence I saw was compelling enough for me to put it in. Just after the book came out, I picked up a magazine and an article by a guy called Dr. Carl Sanders, who is a highly acclaimed electronics engineer in America. And he was developing a microchip to help spinal injury patients put inside and help the messages go down the spinal cord, presumably. And he said in this article that at some point this project was taken over by what he described as the One World Brigade. And he said he attended about 17 meetings, some in America, some in Europe, which were discussing how this microchip could be turned into a form of identification linked to a computer. And guess who attended the meetings? Old Henry again. Gets everywhere, Henry. And I said in the Robots Rebellion that I felt that what they would attempt to do to bounce public opinion, problem solution, was to highlight missing children stories. And therefore get something must be done. Actually, we've got the technology now, you know. You've only got a microchip, put a little microchip, they won't know it's there, and then we'll know exactly where they are. And so we'll never lose your child again. Oh, great, we'll have some of that. And there I sat reading this article from this guy, Carl Sanders, and what does he say in it? He said that in these meetings it was discussed how to get the public to accept them. And what did they say they were going to propose to do? To make the public aware of missing children. And one of the things they did in America, and are possibly still doing, I don't know, was to get one of the dairy multinationals that is linked to this whole, or elements within which are linked to this whole business, and they put missing children on all their milk cartons. So all the time, subconsciously or consciously, we're being hit at breakfast in America with missing children, missing children, missing children. Problem, problem, problem. Something must be done. And of course, what's happening in America now in terms of animals, all this is accepted. You'll never lose Rover if he's microchipped. Well, we'll have some of that. Dogs and animals in America are increasingly microchipped and linked to a computer. In fact, I saw a story on a local news bulletin down the south recently, south of England, which said that it was being done to horses and stuff like that. So this is not technology that's somewhere in science fiction future. It exists now. The question is, how is the public mind going to be manipulated into accepting it? So what I've set out so far tonight, at the very least, surely needs and deserves to be seriously addressed and investigated. And we need to get streetwise to what's going on. And you would think, given the massive amount of documented evidence there is just outside the public arena, that those parties and groups who use the term for themselves radicals would be shouting this stuff from the rooftops, organizing protests galore, but largely they're nowhere to be seen. And I've been stunned at how many people who believe themselves to be radicals, to have sussed the system, are being duped like everyone else, more so in many cases. Far from exposing this conspiracy that is moving on to endanger the future of our children, those who are trying to do that are being condemned by some of them. See, this is an important point, because to the Brotherhood game plan, the robot radicals are just as important as the robot right. The idea, and it's worked magnificently, was to create right across society phony wars. Wars between right and between left. between Labour and Conservative, between Republicans and Democrats, between bosses and workers. And all the time, there we are fighting each other. Oh, it's the Tories. No, it's the Socialists. No, it's the bosses. No, it's the unions. And over here are the manipulators going, thank you very much, I'll have some of that. Divide and rule is the bottom line. And so these phony wars are dividing and ruling. And we never look behind us and see who's pulling the strings of everybody. What the manipulators do is play one black and white, rigid, dogmatic belief system against another rigid, dogmatic belief system and create conflict as a result. That's what largely the Cold War was about. What the Cold War was about was creating this black and white belief system against another black and white belief system on a global scale. Divide and rule. So war was replaced in terms of control by fear of war. Same thing. The only fundamental difference between black and white right and black and white left are the words used to describe their particular black and white belief system. Because unless we leave the black and white alone and start looking at the shades of grey where the truth always lies, then we'll go on being duped and will deserve to be so. And yet, since the Robots Rebellion came out couple of months ago, while so many people who wouldn't describe themselves as radicals have kind of opened their minds to all this and started to say, hey, what are we going to do about it? So many who are considered to be radicals have done nothing but have a go. Apparently, I read in one newspaper, I am anti-Semitic. I wouldn't know how to be racist if I took a correspondence course. The whole idea is ludicrous that we can judge anyone by their physical body, for all the reasons I've talked about tonight. Bizarre. This charge from the political equivalent of disgusted Tunbridge Wells comes from quoting extracts from the so-called Protocols of the Elders of Zion in the Robots Rebellion. It matters not to a robot radical that in the book I say that to blame the protocols on Jewish people is quite wrong. And that no one has suffered more in this century than some Jewish people from the very manipulation I'm exposing or seeking to expose tonight and in the book. It matters not to the robot radical that I actually renamed the protocols the Illuminati protocols to get away from the fact that they're blamed on the Jewish people. It matters not because there are no shades of grey in the manipulated mind of the robot radical, just as there are no shades of grey in the manipulated mind of the robot right.